They say laughter is the best medicine, but can it heal the wounds of war? On today's show, we look into the power of satire in the face of injustice and destruction. I'm Anelise Borges, and this is The Stream.
Israel, anyone? Why Israel?
Palestine started first.
Palestine started it first. Oh, we're talking about October 7th?
I know it's going on for a long time, but
You're just watching from this season.
Building manager, he was actually this like really hardcore Israeli guy. He served in the army, the whole thing, and he would call me Miss Yaakov, which is the Hebrew version of my last name, Yakub. So I'm pretty sure that he thinks that I'm Jewish or Israeli, and it's kind of awkward because I don't want to come out and tell him that I'm actually Palestinian. Because like, what if I come home one day and find him living in my apartment?
If you watch the videos coming out of Gaza, every time a bomb drops, you see a neighborhood of Palestinian men rushing to the scene, moving giant rocks, lifting bodies from the rubble, and carrying them to safety. All while wearing sandals, open toe. The fearlessness of these men and their feet is underrated. You don't want to go toe-to-toe with a Palestinian man. Strong arches. These men are out here doing God's work without proper footwear. And this is proof that Palestinian men have good souls.
Shining a spotlight on humanity in times of war and the most inhumane atrocities. Some comedians are choosing to use humor as an outlet for grief, anger, desperation, and a tool to speak truth to power. Among them are our guests today. Nasser Rayess, known online as the Shawarma King; Jess Salomon, a former war crimes lawyer turned stand-up comedian; and Nina Kharoufeh, an author, amateur boxer, and comedian. Thank you all so much for joining us here on The Stream today. It's a pleasure to have you guys with us. Nasser, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay. Can you tell us briefly about your journey here? How did comedy become important to you?
I mean, comedy's always been something I've been doing for my entire life. I always say it started when the guests came over, and whenever the guests came over, my family would be like, Nasser, come, entertain the guests. And it started from there, and then it just carried through school, and, you know, went through college and university. And after I graduated from university, I just started to kind of like make more comedic videos, and I started doing that. And then that kind of blew up, and then I started getting to stand-up comedy, and now I'm doing the both of them. So I've just kind of took my personality and my upbringing as an Arab American, and now I bring it to pop culture and real life issues like we've seen over the past 4 months.
Just a funny guy by nature, basically. Jess, you were a war crimes lawyer with the UN. I mean, how did you end up making jokes for a living?
I mean, I don't know that it was a great idea, but I don't know if I've always been funny. I was never like the funny gal, but you know, I kind of came at it from, it's kind of embarrassing to say now as a comedian. I didn't really think in comedian terms when I was working as a lawyer, but in a very legal sense, I think I started to see how comedy could be a form of advocacy, and that's not how comedy works, but that's what led me into it. And now I've really realized that you don't really want to get on stage and try to preach to an audience about war crimes. That's lesson number one.
That does not work. Nina, you compete as an amateur boxer. How important is comedy for you?
Comedy is very important to me because there is a lot of power when it comes to comedy, whether it's to entertain, connect people, inform. It's used as a tool for social commentary. I think comedy has the unique ability to really break down barriers, bridge divides, and provide a shared experience, hopefully through laughing. It can be very cathartic, and I found that like using comedy to really spread awareness for my people, as well as just raise awareness and kind of humanize the Arab and Muslim community in America, it's very important to me.
We invited you guys to talk about comedy and humor in a very complex context here. It's like humanity lost the plot. We've seen over the last few months one of the darkest chapters in our common history unfold in front of our eyes. Israel's war on Gaza has basically I don't know, spread several different emotions among us. Many people don't really know what to do about it. You guys make fun of it. Let's have a look at some of your work and the way you have addressed this war, but also the oppression of Palestinians.
I'm Jewish and my wife is Muslim. Yeah, it's all right. We get a tax credit for that in Canada, so it works out. She's also Palestinian. Okay, it gets worse. Great. That is how our families felt about it as well. It was a very tiny wedding, very small. It was just me, her, and a UN peacekeeper, and that was a little party.
The trolls are the best. I've been getting trolled a lot on Instagram lately, and all the comments are like, go back to Gaza, and it's like, that's the point. I kind of wish I could.
Jess, I wanna turn to you as a Jewish woman who's married to a Palestinian Muslim. This whole context here is very personal to you. Is satire, I don't know, a way to cope?
I mean, I think just being in this kind of relationship brought comedy from the get-go. People reacted, they wanted to know more. They wanted to know what our families thought. A lot of people have a lot of comments about also wanting me to go to Gaza. They tell a lot of people online like to tell gay people to go to Gaza when they stand up against genocide, which is an interesting thing. Not one person has sent me any money for a flight, which is not nice. But I think that for me, I always come from like a personal place because you can, and I think, being online is a great place to, or like late night, to deal with the sort of the headline kind of stuff that comes out. But in terms of sort of like a comedy act, I maybe it's also just how my life is, but I like to come at it from, how is it affecting day-to-day life? How does it affect me as a person, my relationship, and try to sort of have a personal lens on like just living in these times, also just as a way to cope and get stuff out. And I find that it's like can be a very good release for people in the audience as well.
Nasser, what about you? Do you think that it is important that comedians don't shy away from what's happening in Gaza right now?
100%. What we've seen has been extremely tragic. And, over the past 3 months, it's been very heavy information for us to digest. And over time, we tend to get desensitized naturally with how we see it so often. And I feel like comedy can be a way to kind of bring to light the information we need to bring in a way that's been different from a lot of the ways we've been sharing it. And I know a lot of my friends have been very appreciative, and a lot of my followers have, they say, I need to take a mental health break, but then I see one of your videos and it's a way for me to digest what's going on in a funny way, but it's also bringing to light a lot of the issues and injustice that we've been seeing. And I think that's what, what Jess and Nina and all of us have been trying to do is kind of use comedy to make it easier to understand what's going on, to bring information out to light that otherwise would be much harder to take in. Because when you see these tragic images in this news over and over again, it takes a toll on you. And I think what laughter does is it provides a different medium for you to kind of get the news and to get the understanding of what we need to hear.
Nina, are there limits, though, to what you can do, to what you can make fun of when it comes to a war that is actually costing hundreds of lives every day?
I don't think there's a limit. As a full-blooded Palestinian, what's been happening is one of the worst human rights catastrophes of our lifetime. And I think as a Palestinian, it's my duty and it's an obligation to speak and tell people what's going on back home. Through humor, I try to highlight the absurdities, inconsistencies, and hypocrisies in the political landscape. So I don't think there's necessarily a limit. I'm not saying that what's going on in Gaza is funny by any means of the stretch of the imagination, but the way to kind of deliver the information to non-Arabs and people who don't know what's going on is through humor, and to try to kind of lighten the situation just a little bit so they can digest the information a little bit better. And I think that's exactly what comedians are doing, whether it's posting content on social media or performing at stand-up, performing at clubs all over the country. There really shouldn't be a limit to what we can talk about. We need to raise awareness, and I think that's what we're doing.
you guys mentioned very positive aspects of your work right now, but obviously, I mean, it's not all positive, I imagine. What about the backlash? Have you faced any kind of, I don't know, resistance or even hatred? Or, I don't know, have you lost contracts and money over this? Can you tell me a little bit about your experience? All of the above. Nina, tell me. Run us through what you lost.
I've lost brand deals. I've lost someone who wanted to manage me, didn't want to manage me anymore. I had an event that I was producing, and the owner of the venue called me and said that I'm too political. I don't know what that even means. Someone tried to get me kicked out of the gym that I go to, saying that I support terrorism. Ooh. Because I claim that killing babies is wrong. How dare I? What a piece of shit I am. Just all of the above people. I've lost friends. I've lost just everything you can think of. And it's just outrageous because what am I saying wrong? All I'm saying is that you should stop killing Palestinian babies and innocent civilians, and apparently I'm the problem.
Yeah, I mean, Nasser, what about you? What has this war and your position cost you?
I mean, it's cost me, but it hasn't cost me to the point of what the Palestinians are suffering in Gaza. But if we're gonna bring it more to like what it's cost me, it's like when I first started posting, I lost almost like 10,000 followers. But
wow.
And my mentality is
I mean, that's okay. You have 500,000 of them, so that's fine.
That's the thing with the beauty of it is, and I think this is what the beauty of all of us have been doing, is when you stick to your core values and you stick to who you are, the right people will come to you and the right things will come to you. I think it's more of like, how I've been taught from my values as Arab, as a Muslim, you have to stick to who you are, and supporting Gaza and Palestine and speaking out for what is right is the right thing to do. And those people who left, go ahead, move on. I want people who actually support me, have similar values to me. And I lost those 10,000 followers maybe the first 2 weeks when I started posting about Gaza and Palestine. But since then, I've gained almost 100,000 since I started talking about it.
Nice trade.
Alhamdulillah, it's exactly. I'll take that trade any day of the week. I've gotten hate messages. I've gotten death threats. People telling me to go off myself and my family. I've had deals go away. I've had people pull out from similar things with venues that they don't want to work with me anymore. But to me, those people, it's better that I found out now than later. And trust me, I always believe that everything happens for a reason. And those people that want to leave, good. They're not there for a reason. But again, the cost that I have is minimal to what everyone else has and Gaza has experienced. So this is nothing, honestly.
No, of course. I want to share with you guys now a moment that went viral, and I guess this guy is a very good reference to all of us. Egyptian comedian Bassem Youssef talking about this context of war and depression. Take a look.
It's very repetitive. We're used to that. We're used to them being bombed every time and moving from one place to the other. It's just like those Palestinians, they're very dramatic. Israel killing us. But they never die. I mean, they always come back. They're very difficult to kill, very difficult people to kill. I know because I'm married to one. I tried many times, couldn't kill her.
I mean, there's a dark humor there, and I understand why. Because
no, it's not dark humor. I try to get to her every time, but she uses our kids as human shields. I can never take her out.
Jess, what is Bassem trying to do there?
I'm relating really hard for the first time to Bassem Youssef because I read the Hamas narrative, and my wife and I used the term narrative a lot in couples therapy, and I was like, this is more reasonable than anything my wife has ever said. It's more reasonable than her narrative of what happens in a relationship.
The Hamas statement is more reasonable than your wife's word.
I'd rather go to couples therapy with Sinwar, to be honest. Yeah. So,
Nasser, what is Bassem trying to do here, though, with this type of statement and this type of sense of humor, I guess?
It's satire at its finest. And I think that's exactly the right way to do it, is that you take a situation that's so absurd and you use it as satire and comedy to be able to prove a point when people sometimes won't listen to you. Like for him saying that thing so absurd to Piers is forced to listen. And then he's like, well, laughing. And he's like, wait, why am I laughing? He understands why, because what he said was so ridiculous. It's true. And so you're forced to sit back and think, wait, why is this making me laugh? This can't be real. Oh, wait, it actually is real. And I think that's exactly what he's trying to do. And what Bassem did, for me personally, he inspired me to put out more satire content. As you saw with what I posted with like the headlines, one thing I started is like things in the Western media that don't make sense while all this was going on. Because there were a lot of things that were going on, especially like after Al-Shifa Hospital got bombed, that they used a lot of different terminologies like likely and maybe and who did this, and we didn't know what was going on. And it was absurd because they don't use that terminology when it came to Palestinians. And so I was inspired by that clip from Bassem Youssef to be like, you know what, it's time to put some satire out there. And like Nina said before, and what Jess said, is that a lot of non-Arabs start to understand what you're trying to say then. They start to digest it, like, wait, what's going on? Why is Nasser talking about this? Why is Nina talking about this with Jess? And I think it was a perfect example of how to get the message across in a way that makes you just sit back and go, wait, why am I laughing at this?
Nina, I'm actually, I wanna ask you about these strategies here because, I mean, you guys get away with so much more than what other artists and even us journalists can actually get away with. I mean, if I say some of the things that you guys say, I would be on a plane out of here immediately. Do you think that that is your power?
Just first of all, shout out to Bassem. He's doing it right. He's doing exactly what he needs to be doing right now.
Yes.
In terms of like, in terms of like comedy, I think comedians do get away with a lot. Not as much as we used to, because there is this cancel culture that we're living in. And there's a lot of censorship around Palestinian artists and Palestinian content creators in general. I think it is a superpower of ours that we do get to say outrageous things and poke fun at the political landscape, because the political landscape right now is just absolutely ridiculous. It always has been. It's never been on our side. And we do have this superpower where we get to make fun of it and still get to keep our jobs, I guess.
Nasser, do you agree?
I mean, at the end of the day, listen, the world we live in now, we have to be ridiculous to get people's attentions. And as comedians, if we aren't ridiculous, listen, this is just the nature of social media now and media in general. I mean, look at CNN's page. It's breaking news for 24 hours when not everything is breaking news. And so I think from my perspective is that sometimes to make a point, you have to be a little bit over the top for people to just understand the basic point you're making. Because if I come in soft, what's going to make you want to listen? What's going to capture your attention? And on social media, we have on average, from what researchers say, 3 seconds to get to your attention. So how am I going to grab your attention to talk about a topic, especially that some people say is complicated, for you to want to sit there and listen to a 45-second or a minute video? Sometimes I have to be over the top. Sometimes I have to say some things that, like Bassem said, is so absurd that you kind of sit back and go, whoa, what's going on?
Jess, one of the things that you guys are also able to do is to challenge pre-existing narratives and biases. Is that important to you? Is that, I don't know, part of your mission here as a comedian?
Yeah, I mean, I think that sometimes just talking about your life, if you're a Palestinian person, if you're a queer person, if you're in a Jewish Palestinian, gay marriage, like all of that, you're presenting something to people that they don't know. And if you make them laugh, already that kind of exposure is something. It's interesting because like I haven't thought so much about the online context because I've mostly been in front of audiences, and it's a little bit different because, especially, I mean, I've been doing this a little while. I have to kind of come in with something more soft. It's not like grab someone's, like you're dealing with a group of an audience of people. They're not going anywhere. You kind of have to almost like bring them on board with something like to, make marriage jokes is one way of packaging some heavier political. Sorry, that's my dog. Oh my God.
Oh, we'll have to invite your dog as well into the conversation. Sounds like they have some.
Our dog is So my wife and I don't have kids, but when we were talking about it, we thought we would have the kid would have my Jewish last name, Salomon, to have an easier life, and would have an Arabic first name. But because the dog is a dog and cute and doesn't get stopped at the airport, she's her last name is El Husseini, like my wife, and her first name is Esther. So
all right,
she's Esther Husseini. Yes, that's.
It's a.
She's Christian.
Many would say that's a wise choice. Many would say.
Yes.
Nasser, can you tell me about, because you talk a lot about challenging pre-existing biases and narratives. Can you tell me a little bit more about how important that is to you?
It's extremely important. It's I have my goals for myself and the goals for the Arab culture that are tied together. And I grew up as an Arab in America, as a Muslim in America, post 9/11, where my culture and my being was pretty much put to the side. Like I had to try really, really, really hard to just remember who I am, to remember the importance of my language, my name, my music, my traditions. I used to go by Nasser because my mom was so afraid to just make my name Arab. And I think it's time for us to stop trying to fit into the American culture and start being unapologetically ourselves. It's time to be Arab and American. And those who like that, welcome aboard. Come have fun and enjoy who we are. If you don't, the door is that way. There's no more time for us to sit here and try to fit in, because we tried and we still got backlash. And it's time for us to empower ourselves. And we have to do that through our comedy, through our music, through our traditions, through clothes, through literature, through law, through medicine. It's time to raise all of us up, because, I want it to be easier for the next generation of Arab Americans, Muslim Americans, of kids, when they grow up, they don't have to feel afraid to be who they are, because we come from such a long lineage of beautiful history and culture, and we should not shy away from that anymore. It's been too long, and we have so many beautiful aspects of ourselves that I feel like in America and across the world needs to see and share and enjoy. It's welcome. If you've been to an Arab household, come sit down, come eat with us, come join our music. It's time for us to do that.
Nina, when this war comes to an end, eventually it will, what role do you think comedy will play in terms of, I don't know, potentially helping people to heal?
I think I've used comedy for the last couple of years that I've been doing it as a means to heal and raise awareness and kind of just spread the Arab joy throughout. Because I do a lot of like American clubs, and I do stand up all over the States. I've always been unapologetically myself. I've been a hijab since I was 13. I've been screaming Free Palestine my entire life, as far as I can remember. And I think for the first time right now in our culture, it's kind of Arab are being more okay and more open-minded, and they're being more authentically themselves for the first time, especially on social media. I think comedy is going to play a pivotal role in the way people perceive and take their information, especially about the war, because it's even now, like with Meta and Instagram and Facebook, they're censoring all kind of content surrounding Palestine, and it's really frustrating because our voices, our comedy, the pictures, the videos, the proof of what's happening to our brothers and sisters back home is really all we have. It's raising awareness is one of the few things we can do. The suppression of our voices represents a severe injustice, and it is crucial that we stand in solidarity against it. I think Palestinians are being denied the fundamental right to share their stories and aspirations with the global community. It's deliberate silencing. And it perpetuates a narrative vacuum, allowing for Zionist propaganda and misinformation to kind of spread like wildfire. For example, the fake 40 beheaded baby story that took over all mainstream media for weeks, only to come that it never really happened. I make a lot of jokes about how everyone in Israel has to join the army, even overweight soldiers, and they're the ones who ate the 40 beheaded babies and not Hamas killing them. It's kind of just like an outrageous thing to think about, because the whole story in and of itself is outrageous. So I try to use humor to try to get people to realize that the propaganda they're spreading is also ridiculous. And I think comedy is doing its job, I think, in the small, grand scheme of things.
Lovely. All right. Well, I hope you guys continue to do your job, because it is actually quite funny. Nasser, Jess, and Nina, thank you so much for joining us here on the stream today. And thank you all for watching. Don't forget, you can and should get in touch with us online on social media, especially if you have ideas and suggestions for us. You can use the hashtag or the handle AJStream, and we'll look into them. Take care, and I'll see you soon.